Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darian and today we're going to be talking about the worst books that I read in 2025. If you saw my best books video, you know that 2025 was a weird reading year for me. I feel like I read more like 2 to 3.5 star reads than normal. I didn't have a lot of 5 stars last year, so we have a decent amount of books that I just really didn't like. However, I have been getting better at DNFing books over the past few years, so if I'm like really not enjoying a book, I'm usually pretty good at DNFing it. So there's only a few. I gave 3 books 1 star last year because for whatever reason, I felt like I could finish the book. So a lot of the books I'm going to be talking about, like, they're not, I would say, bad books. They just did not work for me at all. And some of them were just really disappointing because I was really excited about them. I have my emotional support Ultra Strawberry Dreams Monster, and let's just get started with the worst books I read in 2025. Also, this is in no particular order except for I'll leave the 1 star books for the end, but everything else is like between 2 and 2.5 stars, I would say. So I guess we might as well start with probably the most controversial book on this list. Please don't hate me because this book was in a lot of best books of the year videos. I just really didn't like it. And that is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I thought I would love this. I really thought I would love this, but I just really did not. I will say it had nothing to do with her writing or the atmosphere. The atmosphere was by far the best part of this book. The writing is very atmospheric. Also, I'm not gonna go super into the plots of these books because when I don't like a book, I barely remember it. All I remember is that this takes place on this like remote island in Australia or off the coast of Australia, and you're following this family. It's a dad and his 4 kids, maybe 3 kids, and you know that the mom has passed away, and then this woman washes up on shore and you kind of get this feeling that she is somehow connected to this family and what they're doing on this island, and then you find out more. It's really about like the relationship between these family members, and it's a lot about, I know Charlotte McConaughey writes, her books are about like the environment and climate and stuff, which I think is really great. It just, what really bothered me honestly, and I just could not get past this, was the relationship between the dad of this family and the woman who washes up on shore. I did not care about their relationship. I mean, I think you kind of can tell as soon as she washes up on the beach that there's gonna be some relationship between the two. And I thought it was very weird and uncomfortable. It made me very uncomfortable. This relationship that they had, I really did not like it. And that's honestly the main reason. I also just didn't really care about the story as much. And I know a lot of people cry at the end of this book. I was just happy it was over. Hopefully I don't sound too mean in this video, and if you love this book, like I know I'm in the minority, so there's probably something wrong with me, but I just really did not like it. I think I gave it 2.5 because I could recognize why people like it, especially because the writing was so atmospheric, but as for the story, it just was not for me. Another one that I think I gave 2.5, it might have been a 2, and this, honestly, this is more disappointing than anything, is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I mean, I know a lot of people did not enjoy this Emily Henry release this year, but I was one of them. I just, I really think she should have picked whether she wanted to write a romance or a story about this like famous woman. I don't know what to call her because she's famous just because she comes from a famous family, and these 2 writers are kind of competing to be able to write this woman's memoir, and then there's a romance between them, and there just wasn't enough of the romance for me to care about them, and there wasn't enough of the woman's story for me to care about her, and so I think she really should have chosen which one she wanted to focus on more. I could not care less about this famous woman, Margaret I think was her name. She was so annoying. I got so annoyed from her because she kept being like, she's the one who asked them to come so that she could tell them their story and they could write about it. Like, she asked them to come, and then when she's telling her story, like the main character, what's her name? The main girl, Alice would be like, oh, like, can you talk more about that? And Margaret's like, I'll never tell. Like, it was so frustrating to read. And I know obviously like she's not gonna tell the whole story at the beginning of the book because you don't have a book, but like it was just frustrating because you're the one who asked them to come. But then she'd be like, no, I'm not gonna tell you that. No. I was just so annoyed. So it is sadly my least favorite Emily Henry book. Now I will say there were parts that like got to me. She like, it's still a very well written book. I love Emily Henry's writing, but the actual story was not for me. And so I honestly hope she doesn't release anything this year because I feel like she needs a break. She's released a new romance, I think every year since 2020. I think she needs to take a year off because her past 2 releases I haven't liked very much. So yeah, not my favorite. The next book is also a hot take because this is a lot of people's favorite book in this series. I mean, I've only read 2 books so far in the series, but that is Heartless by Elsie Silver. Yeah, everyone loves Cade, and Willa, I think is her name. And Cade is, so if you don't know, this is a very popular series, but if you don't know, this is the Chestnut Springs series, which is a cowboy romance series. I think there's 5 books and they're all connected, and Cade is the brother of the male love interest in the first book, and Willa is the best friend of the girl in the first book. And basically it's like a single dad and he needs someone to kind of be his nanny, or his son's nanny, not his nanny. He needs someone to be his son's nanny for the summer because of reasons that I can't remember. And then the best friend, the girl from the first book, is like, my best friend could do it. And he's like, okay, but oh no, she's pretty. So, you know, romance ensues. I just thought, like, I really liked Cade, what we saw of him in the first book, because he's very grumpy. He's like my type of man, you know, I love the grumpy guys. But like, being in his head, again, made me feel very uncomfortable. He kept talking about Willa as if like she was something to chase. Like she was a prize to be won, and I just didn't, it just made me uncomfortable the way he spoke about her in his head, and that was really my main complaint. It just made me very uncomfortable. There was also like a very weird remark about asexuality, which obviously I did not like. So it was a quick read and I will probably continue the series. I just did not like, I did not like Cade. I really liked Willa and I really liked his son. I really liked them actually. So I didn't dislike everything about this book, but Cade just kind of gave me the creeps. The next book is actually the last book I finished in 2025, and that is The Unwedding by Ali Condi. I picked this one up on a whim because I was working during the holidays and there wasn't really much work for me to do, and there wasn't too much going on, especially there was a lot of dead moments at the library. So I did what I do sometimes when I don't have much to do, is I took out a book on Libby and I read it at the reference desk. And so I usually pick books that I feel like won't require too much brain power because I know I'll be interrupted. So something that's like easy to put down and pick up and like just continue on. So I picked this book because I feel like there's a lot of like mystery thrillers that fit that description. So anyway, I picked this up. I wasn't really expecting it to be good and it wasn't very good. It was definitely entertaining. Like I enjoyed the process of reading it, but it just wasn't very good. Like I really don't have much to say about it. It wasn't very well written. The main character, like, I don't really like mystery thrillers where the main character has no experience doing detective work, doing police work, but like becomes the main like investigator on on a case. Like she figured everything out and I was like, who is this woman? Like she's just some lady. So I don't know, it was just like, it was very, very average. It was fun to read, I guess, and like I was interested, I guess, to know where it was going, but it finished and I really could not tell you much about this book. If you want to know, it is about this wedding that occurs at this resort. The main character is not affiliated with this wedding. She just happens to be staying at the resort, and then the morning or the night of the wedding, the groom is found dead, and so they're like, whoa, what happened? And yeah, that's all, that's really all you need to know, honestly. It was really just like average. Fine. Okay, so now we're getting into the 1-star book. So I think my least worst, because I don't want to say favorite, the least worst, actually that's, I don't know. These two are kind of tied actually. I have a clear worst book of the year. So these two are kind of tied, but I'll start with Love at First Book by Jen. I can't remember her name, but the cover will be here. This was another book that I read at work. Like I picked something that I wasn't super interested in. So like this is kind of on me, but whatever. This was not, it was just so, I had to give it 1 star because the writing was atrociously bad. What I do remember is you're following this girl, don't remember her name, but I do remember the love interest calls her Red because her hair is red. So very original, but she was a librarian and then she decides to go to Ireland for a year. I think it's Ireland. I don't remember why, but she goes to Ireland and she ends up meeting the author of her favorite like childhood book series, like think Percy Jackson basically. The author kind of like disappeared off the face of the earth before she could write the last book in the series. So the last book that was released in the series, which was like 10 years ago, left on a cliffhanger, and the author never finished the last book. And so I don't remember how they meet, but they end up meeting. And then the author's like, hey, you're a big fan of my books, why don't you help me write the last one? Oh my god, it sounds so silly. And then so another part of this is that she ends up working at this bookstore, and it turns out the guy who owns the bookstore is the son of this author. So she works at this bookstore and she's like, well, I can do it because I'm a librarian. And like this author, like the author of this book, I don't think has ever worked as a librarian or a bookseller. I have worked as both, and it was just a very like basic view of what she thinks being a librarian and what she thinks being a bookseller is. Like especially being a librarian, she made it sound like all we do is like recommend books to people. Okay. Anyway, so that like bothered me for a personal reason, but it was just so weird. It was so weird. And like there's this part in the book where, I mean, I don't recommend this, so I'm not gonna spoil it just in case you want to read it, but the author, the mom of the love interest, she ends up telling the main girl like a pretty big secret that, and she's like, please don't tell my son. And puts her in this such a like difficult position. I mean, I feel like you could maybe guess what the secret is, but she's like, please don't tell my son. It's just so inappropriate and weird. Like, oh my god, this was just so poorly written. It did give me a good laugh, I will say. So like I didn't hate reading it, but it was just not good, and I do not recommend this to anybody. So yeah, that one, I finished that like near the beginning of the year, so I don't remember too much about it, but it was just not good. It was really bad. The next 1 star I gave, I'm so sad that this was 1 star because the premise was really interesting, but that is The In-Between Bookstore by Edward Underhill. I think that's the author's name. And this is another one that I really don't remember well, but this is about this man who's about to turn 30. I remember that. He's kind of having this crisis of feeling like he hasn't done enough in his life. I think he just got laid off, so he's like in a really weird position, and he decides to go back to his, like, he's living in New York, I think, and he decides to go back to his small hometown in Indiana. I think it might be Indiana. It doesn't matter. He goes back to his small hometown to kind of like go back to his roots. But the thing is that, so he is a trans man and he hasn't been back to his town, his small town, since he transitioned. And when he arrives in the town, like he sees people he used to know and he runs into his old best friend. And we know that something happened between them that caused them to stop being friends. His old best friend seeing him for the first time since he transitioned, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the bookstore that I used to work at when I was a teenager. So he goes into the bookstore, and every time he enters the bookstore, he's transported back in time to when he was a teenager working at this bookstore, but it was before he transitioned. So he's himself in the present day, but in the bookstore, so he sees his younger self. Am I making sense? Like, he's not in the body of his younger self. He is himself in the present, and he can see and interacts with his younger self. He's like, oh my god, maybe this is my opportunity to find out what happened between me and Michael. That's his ex-best friend, and I definitely remember his name because he says it a million times in the book. But he's like, I need to find out what happened between me and Michael. So he goes up to his younger self and starts asking his younger self all these questions. And this is when he was a teenager, and he's asking him all these questions. Like, again, I worked in the bookstore. If someone was asking me these like personal questions about myself, like, he gets his younger self to say that his best friend's name is Michael, so he's like, oh, Michael, like, is he a really good friend? Like, do you think, have you guys ever had a fight? Like, it's just very weird. I think the idea was really good and the potential was really good. It was just the execution that really let me down. And I'm really upset because we need more trans stories in the world, and I'm really upset that I couldn't like sing this book's praises, but it just really was not well written, and the main character was also just very frustrating to be in the head of. And I do remember one big problem I had with this book and its writing is that there was a lot of telling and not showing. Like the author would describe a situation and infer what's going on, and so you'd be like, oh, okay, like I know what's going on, I know what this means, but then it would explain like point by point what exactly is going on, but after it's already inferred what's going on. So it was very like repetitive and very unnecessary, and this was like a 300-page book and it took me forever to finish it. So I really didn't like it, and it was really disappointing because, like I said, the premise is so interesting, but the writing, it was really just the writing that did not work for me. Okay, the lighting is starting to get worse, so we have one more book left. This is by far the worst book I read in 2025. I almost said 2020, oh my god. The worst book I read in 2025, and that is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I hated this book. And you might be surprised that I own this book. I am too. I think I got it as a gift a long time ago. I definitely will be unhauling it because I hate this book with a fiery passion. Basically, this is about, well, I think a lot of people know what this is about because this was very popular a few years ago. I think a lot of people don't like this book, so I'm definitely not in the minority. But this is about this woman. What's her name? Mariana. So Mariana is the aunt of this girl named Zoe, and Zoe is basically like, her and her husband basically raised Zoe, so she's almost like a daughter to Mariana. And Mariana's husband died I think a year ago, so she's still feeling a lot of grief. And Zoe goes to Cambridge University, and it's either her roommate or her best friend, hold on, okay, yeah, Zoe's friend ends up being found murdered, and Mariana is convinced that it is a teacher at the school. His name is Edward Fosca, and he kind of has this like study group that people call the Maidens because it's all girls and they're all like very pretty and they dress the same and whatever. And so it's very like, she's right to be suspicious of him. Like, it's very weird that he's so close with this group of female students, but she's convinced that he's the one who murdered Zoe's friend, and she's gonna take it upon herself to investigate, which again, very weird. Why is she the one investigating this? I don't know. This just was not, none of the topics that this book brings up was handled well. The reveals at the end of this book, there's one in particular that I feel like we just breezed on by. We were like, yeah, that's what happened anyway. And it was honestly shocking to me that people could read this book and be like, oh yeah, that's what happened, and it's, you know, I'm okay with that. Like, it bothered me so much. And I think if you are a person who knows someone who was a victim of femicide, or if you know someone who was a victim of domestic abuse, domestic violence, or if you yourself are a woman who has ever been abused by a man, I'm begging you not to read this. Alex does not know what he's doing. He does not handle these topics with care, and it makes me really, really angry. And I was just listening to this with, I listened to the audiobook and I would listen to this with my mouth like wide open. Like, it made me so angry to read this book because the violence in this book is so gratuitous. I don't think I could talk about this eloquently because it just makes me so angry. I think if you're gonna have a book that discusses topics like violence against women, you need to handle it with care and not just use it for shock factor, because this is a huge problem in real life. And you as a man, especially if you as a man are writing about this topic, you need to do your research and you need to handle it with the utmost amount of care. And Alex Michaelides did not do that, and it makes me very angry that this book is just out in the world and no one throughout the writing process said, hey, maybe you should rewrite this part, maybe you should, I don't know. It just makes me so angry. So I hate this book. I hate it with every fiber of my being. It will be getting unhauled, and I don't think I can ever read another book by this author because I'm honestly like kind of disgusted by this book. And yeah. So sorry to end on such a negative note, but this is a pretty negative video, I guess. Let me know what your worst books of the year were. And also, if you agree with me on any of these books, I would love to know if there's any other people who didn't love Wild Dark Shore, because I feel like I'm the only one. But yeah, if you watch till the end, just leave a book emoji because I feel like a few of these books have to do with books. So, and that's also, obviously we're talking about books. So just leave a book emoji if you watch till the end. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Is that my outro? Don't forget to comment, like, comment, and subscribe. Whatever. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Bye.